attended every one of their assembly meetings. For the first week, when there were dangerous situations, we requested that people do things like, you remember there was a structure out on the left-hand side. We asked them to take it down. It took them a while, but they did take it down. That was the one where the woman fell 14 feet. And when the firefighters responded to their 911 call, we weren't allowed to go in and help her. As the week went on, we had additional incidents like that. We had, I think, 27 calls for the fire departments and the paramedics. We had several reports of other crimes. We had the situation with the knife and excited, but I don't think that represented the movement. I think it only represented the situation at night. So, it was really unfortunate. We really did try to work with them. I personally asked many of the community groups that are coming out now to be involved, to stay overnight, to be involved in the assemblies. That it really deteriorated last week. I think the Tribune article about the man who was struck in the head with a 2x4 was sort of, for me, the sort of emotional end, because it was sort of, we've got to have better ways of keeping peace than hitting somebody over the head with a 2x4.
Ms. Santana has a few things to add.
The mayor summarized quite well the actions that we took, but in addition to that, beginning on October 12th, we began issuing daily letters to be delivered to at the policy meeting at 10 a.m. or at 7 p.m. General Assembly. And in those letters, we asked and reiterated what we needed to ensure public health and safety. After the incidents that the mayor referenced around the inability to provide medical services for calls for service and the gentleman severely beaten, it was determined that we needed to begin to communicate that we needed to begin to leave. That occurred on Thursday, and over the weekend there was lots of discussions with people who had been in support and providing food and water as well as other assistance. And I received information back. I offered to walk through the tent, as did the chief, on a Saturday to show what we were seeing in terms of what posed public health and safety. We did not have the opportunity to do that. The feedback that I got was that the situation was characterized as having devolved. And so I met with the inability to communicate and try to provide dialogue and reiterate and reinforce what the city needed to maintain public health and safety. We did not see that there was a solution, and we proceeded to evacuate the encampment.
Okay, back here. Well, got a couple in the front. Go ahead.
Robert Lyles with CBS 5. The question is for Chief Jordan. It's two-part, but involving the same issue. There's conflicting information about whether rubber pellets or beanbag were used. Can you give us first a sense of what type of non-lethal force was used last night? As well, there was conflicting information about flashbangs. So I'd ask that you address each of those.
Okay. To my knowledge, none of the Oakland police officers used rubber bullets. We don't have that in our inventory. There was also a rumor that we used wooden dowels. We don't have that in our inventory. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
Flashbang grenades.
Flashbang grenades. We did not use that. It was the seeded gas ball that rolled at people's feet, dispersed them. That could be perceived as a flashbang. Flashbang is usually used inside the building. They don't generally use outdoors. So when that ball disintegrates, it makes a lot more. So that could be why people think it's a flashbang. It's actually a gas ball.
But we know that other departments were involved with the effort last night. Is it possible that other departments may have had this type of non-lethal force that you're speaking of, the rubber bullets?
Yeah, it's possible. We're actually reviewing their reports right now. We've asked them each to document their use of force. So we're in the process of reviewing those reports to see what type of conditions they use.
And I have to say, we were live at 11 p.m. last night. The lights went out shortly after, the street lights that is, went out shortly after a tear gas grenade was launched. We also heard a loud explosion. So was there any connection between that large explosion and the lights going out?
I'm not aware of any connection like that.
And let me just say, this is a question I've asked sometimes. I was partly responsible after the Iraq War demonstrations for the outline of the dowels and the rubber bullets. We have been looking at whether or not it was possible that anyone else used it. But in the mutual aid agreement, they're supposed to, everyone is supposed to abide by Oakland rules. So that is an issue that we're looking at.
Supposed to, but we don't know if that happened.
We don't.
No, we don't, because of the charges. We're looking into it. We started looking into it last night when I heard about it.
With that,
Mayor Quan.
can you state your name, please?
Mathai Gurubillo, San Francisco Chronicle. Mayor Quan, whose idea was it to do the raid and the sweep of the encampment? And are you supportive of the way it was conducted? Are you satisfied with the way it was conducted?
You know, I don't know everything. I'm still listening. I was informed by Ms. Santana when it was happened. I immediately got online to the EOC, and thanks to all the good TV coverage, I was watching 3 different camera angles. A lot of you the other night was watching it as it evolved. It seemed like, again, I wasn't here. It seemed that the morning met the goals. It was very quick. There were very few people relatively. It didn't seem, other than 1 or 2 people, that there was a lot of, the demonstrators seemed to be peacefully going in civil disobedience. So I don't know. It seemed that was done as peacefully as possible. But I'm now hearing that maybe there's 1 or 2 incidents, so we don't know. We've asked the police department to assign an officer to investigate. We've asked the Inspector General to do that. I'm very likely going to ask, when this is all over, to ask Community Policing Review Board to take this on as an issue, to take hearing and testimony, so that we can learn from this and change any mistakes that were made.
Could you answer the first question about whose idea was it to do the raid this week?
I basically, I only asked the chief to do one thing, to do it when it was the safest for both the police and the demonstrators.
Asked you. The city administrator has something to add to that too, in terms of the details.
The decision process was such that on Wednesday, when we were meeting daily, a team of multiple departments to receive information of the types of reports of incidents that were occurring. On Wednesday, what we had received was information of 2 denied AMR responses. One in particular was a woman who had fallen from 14 feet to the floor, or from a tree to the floor. I believe it was at that time that the man was severely beaten and left the camp. And what we had heard were that protesters personally went to the coroner's office to see if he was there. And with those set of facts, the chief and I talked, and we deemed that it was time to look at what our resources were based on those types of information. There was also information in there around some anti-police signs and how they would proceed with the police. And there was enough set of facts that led us to begin to put mutual aid resources in place. The chief is the person who communicates for mutual aid resources. We talked and we wanted to understand the timing. We were informed that it would take about 5 days, and we began making arrangements to seek those resources based on that set of information that we had at Wednesday's briefing.
We also, during the weekend, started working with the homeless people. The camp was a hodgepodge of different people. We asked our homeless workers to offer the same shelter that we would as we normally do in the fall. We also asked the county mental health to come out because some of the violence we were told was precipitated by people who are 5150s basically, and asked them to work with people to try to see if we could move some of the people to safer places during the week. We also asked them to not use these candles inside and the propane tanks because of all the straw on the grass. We tried to bring in labor people and other people over the weekend to try to start the dialogue. So it was not an immediate decision. It was evolved over several days, and we were trying to find some alternatives for different campers.
Okay, here, state your name.
I'm with the Occupy Citizens Press, and I'd like you to speak to why the LRAD was deployed and how you justify what if it was used or not in any of the raid of the ensuing incidents in the street.